A real genius finds opportunities where others don't, and your trash may be someone else's inspiration. While some of us are happy to embrace the bizarre, the rest of us can't help but wonder, what in the world? South Korea just banned sending these giant plastic balloons across the border to North Korea. Hundreds of feet long, they carry rice, money, USB sticks with K-dramas, and some Bible verses. Sure, they sound like super sweet care packages, or like last-minute Christmas gift ideas, except they also contain hundreds of leaflets denouncing Kim Jong-un's regime. So they have some anti-government leaflets. Sounds like a real non-issue after the year we've all just had. But North Korea is famously known for censoring all information that comes into the country. This is probably why giant balloons with colorful text on it saying things like, "Down with the Kim Jong-un's hereditary dictatorship," can get them really agitated. Angry enough to blow up the joint liaison office with South Korea and all communication, try to send back balloons, and give this guy Park Sang-hak a cool yet confusing nickname, Enemy Zero. Why? Because he escaped from North Korea years ago and now sends several such balloons across every year since 2004. Of course he didn't start this. The South Korean government did, back in the 1950s. And they kept doing it till 2018, occasionally even playing K-pop songs at the border to lure North Koreans over to their side. These see-through balloons have upset North Koreans so much, several young people marched against the leaflets. Everyone sounded really mad about letting this happen, especially this guy.
그런 미친 개새끼 중에 개새끼들은 있을 자리가 없다고 하면서 이 지구상에서 영영 쓸어버려야 된다고 저는 생각합니다.
Despite the ban from South Korea, a fine of approximately $27,000, and the angry responses from North Korea, Park and other North Korean defectors like him seem undefeated. Because they believe this is the only way for North Koreans to know about the human rights violations of their dear leader. So it looks like the Kim regime is going to have to continue being a baby about things. As 2020 came to an end, several people from across the world came together to celebrate an ancient tradition, pigeon racing. Yes, you've heard it right, pigeon racing. The result was this pigeon from Belgium being sold for $1.9 million to a Chinese businessman. Meet New Kim. With a name like a rapper, Belgium's best bird of 2018, and now one of the most expensive birds ever sold. New Kim was bred in Belgium by Gaston van de Wouwer, who is just one of the thousands of trainers around the world with a keen eye for pigeon racing, a sport that has had everyone from ancient Romans to the current Queen of England invested. It mostly involves waiting for a pigeon to fly thousands of kilometers back to their home. The sport is a slow burn, but it has lit flames inside its investors. This includes Chinese businessmen who rank pigeons above their family.
对，另外没有什么，就是老实上，就像我们家人就是说，各自是第一位的别。
Over several centuries, aficionados have noted pigeons always found a way to come back home. So they were used in wars. They helped start a newswire, were involved in studies on which other species may be into gambling, and are now filling the gambling addiction needs in China, where the sport has inspired a betting market and tournaments with cushy cash prizes. So before Chick du jour New Kim, there was Armando, who sold for $1.42 million to the same Chinese investor. Yeah, this whole trend is not sitting very well with the Belgian gamers who find the $1 million bids far too much to compete with.
Il y a une somme à respecter, mais pour moi c'est trop cher quand on voit des 200 000, 250 000 euros, c'est pas normal.
Of course, with more money come more problems, like being involved in doping scandals, or occasionally being bird-napped, and sometimes ending up on death row. Yikes. But the game of pigeon racing is only getting more exciting, with Kim and Armando's investor hoping to breed them. Looks like this sport is about to get a $1 million baby boost. Cats have ruled over us for far too long. There may even be scientific proof that cats are bad for you, and yet we continue to be enamored by them. Their brazen wild behavior has stayed untamed over years, and in some cases, things have got really bad. But it is finally time to teach them how to behave, and it may just be by putting them in some decent clothing, like these hijabs. This won't be the first time someone has tried and failed at it.
The Nike hijab done on a cat.
But two genius companies in Indonesia are trying their hardest to lure more customers in, with cuteness. and it seems to be working. Personally, I think pink is doing wonders for her complexion. It also encouraged male feline fashion. What started out as a joke turned into quite a rage on Twitter, with helpful feedback like, "I'm sorry sister, but your hair is showing." The cats don't look too pleased. A look of approval? This is not. Neither is this. Or this. And while it may not be as harsh as spraying your cat down, it certainly seems to get the same reaction.
Why Kaavan, they call him the lawless elephant? Because he is the only Asian elephant in Pakistan. The elephant was chained 24/7 for 30 years. Very, very sad. Good day, my name is Dr. Amir Khalil. I'm a veterinary doctor working for Forbos International, a global animal welfare organization based on Austria. And I'm the mission leader and one in charge of relocating the giant elephant Kaavan over 5,000 kilometers from Pakistan till Cambodia. 2020, when we came to evacuate the zoo in Islamabad, the situation was worse with Kaavan. So I decided myself to feed the elephant. When I bored, I start to sing. I noticed this elephant felt lonely and he was happy maybe that somebody interact with him. So I start to sing for myself and finally I find one fan, which is Kaavan. I love all the time Frank Sinatra song, I Do It My Way.
And now the end is near.
He liked this interaction and he started to follow me. He started to wait every day in the same place. I sing for him. Kaavan was the only case in my career where I felt this elephant really have a big, big heart. Rescuing animal is really something I like. The main point for rescue animal, especially in conflict and war zone, where humans have the luxury sometimes to be evacuated. Animals don't have this luxury. We transported Kaavan on the 30th of November, very, very early morning. It was 3:30 in the morning from Pakistan to Cambodia with a Russian airplane, Ilugin 76TD. It's a huge cargo airplane, and the team of Forbos and the vets joined all the trip of Kaavan, starting from the zoo in Islamabad till the sanctuary in Cambodia. It was adventure for Kaavan and for ourselves, and then we are looking for the future of Kaavan.
Okay, so there are cafes with meerkats. Cute. There's at least one cafe that is themed like a toilet, and some that are actual prisons. But nothing as quiet as gothy and Gen Z-ish as a cafe where you talk about death over a cup of coffee. So who does this? And why are there so many of them around Asia? Frankie from Vice, who did a story on this, tells us more.
What made you want to chase this article in the first place?
When I first heard the phrase Deaf Cafe, the first thing that popped up in my mind was an image of people gathering at a cemetery just to eat, not to be so literal, but I thought that in chasing this article, it would give me a chance to really step back and be a little introspective and gain some new insights about what deaf means to different people.
So it's just a group of people and they just, sit and talk in a cafe and talk about death?
The Deaf Cafe is actually a whole movement and model started by this man named John Underwood. So unfortunately, he passed in 2017, but in 2011, he started the very first or one of the first Deaf Cafe meetings in London. And the main idea was really just to get people to meet over tea and cake and discuss everything and anything about death. So it was a way to really just get a conversation going about a topic that was so taboo. And that idea grew so popular, people around the world wanted to do it as well. So now, according to the Deaf Cafe website, there has been over 10,000 Deaf Cafe meetings in 74 countries. And this, ranges from countries in North America to Europe and even here in Asia.
In a nutshell, what did they say the point of it all? What's the point of life and death and etc.?
The main reason why these Deaf Cafe meetings are happening is really just to open up a conversation and to see what people think about death.
Why do you think this topic and this movement is getting more popular?
So personally, I think deaf cafes have been on the rise, mainly because, we're living in 2020. It's a new day, a new age. People want to come out and talk about more things that we used to be afraid of.
Are there any different type of deaf cafes?
I actually found out that there is a deaf-themed cafe in Bangkok, Thailand. So it's called the Kid Mai Deaf Cafe, or the Think New Deaf Cafe. And it was actually created by a professor as part of his philosophy and religion PhD thesis. So the ultimate goal from this professor, he said he created this deaf cafe to raise awareness about death and to decrease anger and greed in people. Because he said he felt that in understanding death, people will have a deeper appreciation of life and what it means to live. So the thing about this cafe is that, it seems like a regular cafe. It sells drinks and food, but they actually have a coffin there, and they invite visitors and guests to lie down in the coffin just to get a taste of what death feels like, even if it's just for a few moments. I'm pretty sure in my research, I found out that Deaf Cafe sells death-themed beverages. So they have lattes called 1 month left, or 1 day left, and 1 year left. And it sounds really ominous, but yeah, the whole Deaf Cafe theme really runs wide throughout that one in Thailand.
For you personally, did you have any philosophical learnings or awakenings about your own mortality?
Before this story, death to me was just, the end of life. That's it, nothing more. Pretty one-dimensional view. But now, after this story, I realized that I found that, I'm more motivated, more optimistic. The idea of death being the one thing we can all be sure of, it makes me want to push myself further and, accomplish all my goals before I eventually go.